The Fantasticks opened May 3rd, 1960 at the Sullivan Street Playhouse in New York. And it ran for 42 years at that theater, then closed for 4 years. And then in 2006, it reopened at a different theater in Midtown Manhattan and ran for another 10 years. So it was the situation in those days, and may still be, that directors, once a show was opened, they were through with it. They moved on to the next show and the next and the next. And so that was the case with our director, our very brilliant director, Word Baker, who did the original production. So it just happened that Harvey and I sort of then became responsible. We did all the casting for it for those 42 years, and we helped put the new replacements in as they arrived, and we went as frequently as we could to give notes and keep the show in good shape. And during that, then I had a unique opportunity to really get to know the show very well and how it worked. And then I began to realize there were places I felt that I could make better. There was one big, huge structural change we made, and I won't go into that now, but other than that, these were small moments when I thought, well, I think I could make that funnier, or I could make it more touching, or I could make it clearer. And so I had the chance to then do a little tweak, rewrite, and to try it out. And then we could see if it was funnier or more touching or clearer. And if it was, we incorporated it. And so that by the end of the run, I had pretty much done everything I could possibly want to do with the Fantasticks, except one big moment at the end of the show, a number called Round and Round, and very difficult, always a problem, and I didn't know how to solve it. And then there was and is, brilliant young director named Seema Sueko, who was getting ready to do a production at Pasadena Playhouse, and she contacted me, and she had some ideas about it. So I invited her up here to the country, and we worked on it several days, and we both liked what we came up with. And then I went out to Pasadena for the dress and for the opening, and I liked what happened there. So right at the end of 52 years after it opened, I took it down to the Jerry Orbach Theater, and we put it in to the show in New York, and it was a great improvement. And I thought, oh my God, thank you. I finally finished with the Fantasticks. And not only that, but music theater has now incorporated it all into the script and into the scores. And I invite any of you who might be interested and who only know the show from fairly on, like the first quarter century or something like that, you might want to check it out. I think you'll find some things that will surprise you and excite you. So, having said all of that, and now the subtext of what this little gathering is today, I was in the original production in 1960, playing the old actor, and then I went back into it 50 years left for the 50th anniversary, and played it again. And since my son Sam is using his cell phone here to do a little home video, I'm going to do a scene or so from the Fantasticks as the old actor, just so I have a copy of it somewhere. Excuse me while I, like an actor, clear my throat. El Gallo says to the audience, he says, I need actors, extra actors, to stage my elaborate abduction. But I'm not worried. Something will turn up. I can sense it in the air. And there's a muffled drum beat. And he looks over. There's an old theatrical trunk at the side of the stage, which has been there through the whole first act. He points to the mute, who opens it up, and two extremely ancient actors come out and go over to him, approach him, and one of them strikes a pose and he says, "Sir, the players have arrived." And he throws some confetti in there, it gets in his face. And Gaio says, "Senor, the players are most welcome." "Oh, don't look at us like we are, sir. Please remove 10 pounds of road dust from these aged, wrinkled cheeks. See makeup caked in glowing powder pink. Imagine a beard full blown and blowing like the whiskers of a bear, and hair. Imagine hair. In a box, I've got all colors, so I beg you imagine hair. And not these clothes, no. Dear God, not rags like any beggar has, but see me in a doublet." Mortimer fetched a doublet. There, imagine. It's torn, I know. Forget it. It vanishes under light. That's it. That's the whole trick. Try to see me under light. I recite, say a cue. I'll know it. Go ahead, say one. Try me. Friends, Romans, countrymen. It's what? Friends, Romans, countrymen. Don't tell me. I can get it. Let's see. Friends, Romans, countrymen. And Mortimer goes over and whispers in his ear, Henry says, "I can't hear a blind word you're saying." So Mortimer says part of it again, and Henry says, oh, yes, of course. Why, that's easy. Why didn't you pick something hard? Here, watch this. Friends, Romans, countrymen, screw your courage to the sticking place, and be not sick and pale with grief that thou, her handmaidens, should be far more fair than she is. How is that? Amazing. Well, try to see it under light. I assure you, it's dazzling. I am Henry Albertson. Perhaps you recall my Hamlet. Of course. You remember? Would you like to see the clippings? Perhaps later. As you wish. I preserve them. Who knows? I may write a book someday. Mortimer laughs, and seeing that nobody else is amused, he stops laughing. This is Mortimer. He does death scenes. He's been with me for 50 years. Would you like to see one? Mortimer, go ahead. Die for the man. And Mortimer does an elaborate death, and Henry says, "There, you see. What did I tell you? Now, down to business. You, sir, need players for a love scene. Have you done romantic drama, Henry?" "That's is my speciality. Have you never seen my Romeo?" "I don't think so." "You didn't see my Romeo?" "I don't think I was born yet." "Well, what about my Brutus, or my Lear, or my Richard II, or Richard III, or my Bottom? Surely you've seen my Bottom. If you had seen my Bottom, you would never forget it. I have the clippings. Henry, here's the path. Aha. we'll have these players play something like the abduction of this maiden before this lover, and if he but blench, we'll stand our ground and fight till the lot of us is down. Nobly done. This way, Henry. And they start to leave, and Mortimer goes, psst. Henry stops, and Mortimer goes, psst. Henry kind of like does his cape, and he sees, oh, it's Mortimer. Yes, yes. And Mortimer says, where do you want me? And Henry says, off left, Mortimer, off left. Plantagenets are always off left. Watch me cue. I'll tell you when it's time. Righto, righto. And Mortimer, don't forget, dress the stage. Dress the stage, dear friend. Don't cluster up when you die. And he bumps into a pole and goes on off. And Henry says to the audience, he's still an apprentice, you know. And I suppose that's it. I imagine we'd better go hide. And the guy says, oh, I never forgot, I promised them moonlight. And he points to the mute, who gets a cardboard moon out of the box and hangs it on a pole, and the lights turn blue. And Henry says, amazing. And Elgaio says, oh, you go ahead, Henry, I'll be right there. Ciao. And Henry goes off, and Elgaio says to the audience, you wonder how these things begin. Well, this begins with a glen. It begins with a season, which, for want of a better word, we might as well call September, and the harp music begins. It begins with the forest where the woodchucks woo, and leaves wax green, and vines entwine like lovers. Try to see it. Not with your eyes, for they are wise, but see it with your ears, the cool green breathing of the leaves. And hear it with the inside of your hand, the soundless sound of shadows flicking light. Celebrate sensation. We call that secret place. You've been there. You remember. That special place where once, just once, in your crowded, sunlit lifetime, you hid away in shadows from the tyranny of time. That spot beside the clover where someone's hand held your hand, and love was sweeter than the berries or the honey or the stinging taste of mint. It is September before a rainfall, a perfect time to be in love. And we have the love scene and the song, Soon It's Gonna Rain, and then the abduction ballet where the two old actors and Elgaio sword fight with the boy to let him be the hero, just like in the movies or the novels or the plays. And then the parents of the children reconcile, and the girl says, I always knew there'd be a happy ending, and they freeze in place. And Elgaio gets up from where he's fallen. He says, I think I pulled something. And Mortimer says, oh, you get a bit sore at first, dying like that. It's not the easiest thing in the business, but I like it. I've been dying for 50 years, ever since I was a boy. You should have seen me in those days. I could die off a 20-foot cliff. Backwards. People used to cry out, die again, Mortimer, die again. But of course, I never did. Henry gets up, and Elgaio says, well, Henry, are you off now? Yes, yes, going somewhere. There's not much left to the old company anymore, just Mortimer and me. But we make out all right. recite Shakespeare. Mortimer dies. There's usually an audience somewhere. And he starts to go, and a guy says, Henry, and Henry is sort of taken the moon, has got it under his arm. He said, oh, yeah, I nearly forgot. Here's your moon. And he starts to go again, and the little guy who says, good night, sweet prince. Henry turns back and he says, and flights of angels sing thee to thy rest. Why doth the drum come hither? Pam! And Mortimer hits the drum, and Henry says, no. He says, remember, Mortimer, there are no small actors, only small parts. And they get back in the box, and it's just as the mute is closing the lid, Henry looks out at the audience and he says, remember me in light. And it closes. And so that seems to be a good way to close off this little series of talks, if you've been kind enough to listen to them. And I will just say, quoting my friend Henry, remember me in light.